Hey, good morning. How's everyone doing? Welcome back to Blue Ridge Silverhound. I'm your host, Sean. Here's to you. I'm just going to start the day out with a nice glass of water. You know what else we have to start the day out with? Something incredibly spicy. A topic that normally doesn't come up too often at all, but seeing as how we have a real opportunity to discuss it because of a recent sale here recently on Heritage Auctions, I figure it warrants some sort of conversation. Now, is this going to be something like, hey, find this, be on the lookout, you just never know where you're going to find it? Is kind of misleading because some of these coins, the experimentals that exist in this world, are a little tough to find, and with the most rarest and most highly coveted types of error coins also comes with it a bit of lore, with it. There's also the romantic kind of like aspect of it as well. Just kind of really trying to imagine what exactly happens when the U.S. Mint is trying to play with different other compositions in their coinage. So the one coin that I think is sorry, let me log in here so that way I have something to give you guys as far as information is. Yeah, we're off to a slow start this morning, as you can see. But while I'm doing this, Central States Numismatic Show on Heritage Auctions actually featured a lot of Fred Weinberg's error coins that he had sold. A lot of them graded, pretty cool grades, by the way. They're all PCGS graded as far as I could see. Furthermore, the Weinberg pedigree has its own very unique, it has its own very unique look to it, and it's not something that you could get anytime you want to. No sir, no ma'am. All right, what's going on here? So the coin in question is going to be the one that I'm going to pop up here on screen. This is actually a 1944 Lincoln cent. Now, it's silvered in color and or steel-like. We all know that in 1943, the U.S. Mint decided to go a different direction to help ration some of the copper for the war efforts. They actually went with a zinc-coated steel cent. Where this 1944 Lincoln that you see here looks like that. It looks like that coin. And come to find out, after seeing this realized sale, that it is not steel at all. The mint was having issues producing the zinc-coated steel coins of 1943. They had to make sure that they had these dies that were stronger than the dies used to produce the pre-1943 Lincolns that were bronze, because steel is a stronger metal, and there's going to be a lot more wear and tear. But this coin that you see here, believe it or not, was an attempt at a brand new composition, and the U.S. Mint was spitballing new composition makeups, genetic makeups of their compositions. This particular coin right here, I'm gonna go ahead and flash also the coin in the graded holder. Turns out that it's a PCGS Mint State 62 experimental planchet. Let me tell you a little bit about what we have here. So the coin is 69% silver, 31% copper. Okay, you're probably asking yourself, well, how did they come up with that determination? Well, they use some of the more advanced technology like the XRF scanners and things like that. Stuff that normally you would only see at maybe a jewelry store or through a lab, or there are a few coin shops that actually have these. However, the equipment is so ridiculously expensive to own. So more times than not, these things get sent out to labs, and that's how they come up with the overall mix of the coin. So this was part of the Fred Weinberg collection. During World War II, copper was an important munitions alloy, while silver was not. Okay, and that's why we had the silver wartime nickels for a number of years. For example, silver was added to the wartime Jefferson nickel alloy, while copper and nickel were removed. One could speculate that the present cent was intentionally struck as part of an effort to replace the unsuitable 1943 steel cent alloy, yet reduce the copper content of 1944 cents. In any event, this coin exists in its possibly, unique silver copper alloy. It is lustrous and nicely struck with unmarked surfaces and light golden brown toning. The reverse has a railroad rim near 9 o'clock. The rim is widest on the reverse near 5 o'clock and narrowest on the obverse near 5 o'clock. The last part of it probably a little bit inconsequential for what we have here, but this was actually one of the attempts at some sort of kind of like experimentation with different planchets. Apparently, this one did not work out for whatever reason. And as you guys know, they ended up converting the Jefferson nickels to this manganese silver. They probably could have done that same composition with the Lincoln cent back in the day if it was that important. It would have been a little bit more cost effective. It wouldn't be nearly as much silver in the coin than this experimental would be. But when we think about and by the way, it sold for $19,200 in case you were wondering. But it's not the most expensive experimental planchet coin that I've heard about. The 1975 aluminum, by far and away, the most rarest and most valuable. Some will say, well, how about the 1943 Lincoln that was struck on copper? Those were not experimentals. They were produced in error. Because when you go from 1942 to 43, and before that, you were producing coins on a bronze planchet, and when you've produced so many of that, the U.S. Mint process and the way everything is handled isn't 100% squeaky clean. There's going to be a blank planchet that flies off and rolls underneath the minting press or behind a filing cabinet. And then when they go to do some sort of, cleaning a year later, they discover all these planchets, and workers will just take them and toss them into the batch of, steel cent blanks, and that's how some of those happen. And it happened quite often. When we think about that time period of the war, and or just 1940s in general, compared today, things were not 100% cleaner during that time. It's not like that, at the end of every shift, every team member or employee goes and actually cleans and sweeps the floors, and they wipe down the equipment, and they go ahead and grease the machinery and blah, 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 this and that. No, it just never happens. Even to this day in modern 2022 coinage, we see a lot of that human error element come into play with our coins today. So, but when we think about other experimentals, the aluminum 1975 is one other such, because the cost of producing coins on bronze copper planchets were beginning to get expensive during the 70s, so they were experimenting then. However, we do have these off-metal strikes, okay? The 43, well-known. The 1982 D small date weighing 3.1 grams as a copper is another one. Also, the 83 Lincoln is another one. And then, there are a number of other coins like it. These are called transitionals. Transitionals means that a coin transitioning from one composition from one year and then changes to a different composition to the next, is a transitional year. So when you have an off metal strike, for let's go ahead and use the 1943 Lincoln for example. There was a change in composition from one year to the other. You had leftover blanks from the previous year that got struck on that particular date, that year's newest coins. So another thing that we saw a lot of transitionally was the transition from silver to copper nickel clad. All right, that was what 1964 to 65 was the transition point for those particular coins, most notably Roosevelt dimes, quarters, and half dollar, half dollars were the three main U.S. coinage that we saw. All right, and we've seen those again before. We've seen 1965 quarters and dimes struck on 90% silver planchets. Okay, and they're extremely wildly valuable and highly sought after in the error community. And the coins generally command anywhere from $800 to $1,000 and up. And in certain cases they go up even more than that if it's a unique type of coin. Enter in this next example that we have here. This is actually a 1968S Washington quarter proof. So these were only found in proof sets, but this one right here also sold on heritage auctions during the Central States Numismatic Show. Not a Fred Weinberg piece, by the way, although this looks like something that he might have in his collection. It's such a stunning coin. This is a 68S struck on a 90% silver planchet. This is what I call a long-term or long-range transitional, because the U.S. Mint stopped producing 90% quarters in 64, so there's a 4-year gap. And I've seen them go a lot longer than that. I've seen a few transitionals go out into the 70s. And again, that's going to be a one-off scenario where, a planchet that's been sitting underneath the filing cabinet for 8 years finally gets discovered, and they're figuring, oh yeah, this is just another planchet. Let's go ahead and toss this in with all the copper nickel composition planchets. So this particular coin, very, very stunning. And at first glance, you're probably figuring, well, how did this end up in a proof set? It's actually very not as discernible as you would think, because proof coins were struck in just really nice high quality. That even there are variances in actual tone and color of the coins when they're inserted into the government lenses, all right, the packaging. So something like this, if a 90% silver proof, if you took a copper nickel clad proof coin, proof quarter, and then this 90%, the only difference is there's going to be a slightly whiter color to the 90% silver. And this is probably more reasonable to try and cherry pick out of SMS sets and also later proof sets, because we're seeing a testament here of a 68S that is struck on 90% silver. So heritage description on this coin: the coin is appreciably reflective in the fields, complementing sharp motifs. Each side is virtually brilliant. A few minor marks are seen beneath a loop. The white edge of this piece, confirming the silver planchet alloy, is readily visible in the edge view holder. And this one right here, here's the grade on it. It's a proof 64. No cameo, nothing like that. I think that's pretty inconsequential on this piece, and this one ended up selling for 11,700 bones. So that's, again, a lot of money. And the thing that makes this a little bit more extra special compared to a business strike transitional is that it's on a proof coin, and it's on a long-term, long-range date at that, 4 years later on a 68S. It's funny because it's on a San Francisco minted coin. All right, so this looks like something that you would see on a Philly, and that's why you see a lot more of the business strike transitionals. Now, the business strike transitionals, like a 65 Washington quarter struck on 90% planchet, have sold in that kind of like $1,000 to $1,500 range. I've seen them a little bit higher than that. Some of the more unique fare, like for instance, There are some transitional Eisenhowers. One date that never had any 40% silver strikes were struck on, 40% silver planchets. Those sell for many thousands of dollars. The candy half dollars. You have 40% transitionals, so like a 1971 Philadelphia candy half dollar struck on a 40% silver planchet is quite rare, quite valuable as well. But I will say this, within the last 10 years, there have been probably 2 or 3 examples that have been found by coin roll hunters of 71s coming out of these boxes that are 40% silver, so the silver clad compositions, and those end up being really, really big finds at the end of the day. So I wanted to take some time to talk a little bit about the difference of the experimentals and transitionals. Again, 2 completely separate events, virtually unrelatable to each other in terms of what the overall goal and mission was. For an experimental was to test out new cost-effective composition alloy combinations that are not only low maintenance but also easier on the presses and low cost. So hopefully that was a little bit stimulating for you. Another thing that I failed to mention is that there were also, especially during the 40s and 50s, because it was quite commonplace for the U.S. mints to produce coins from other countries. So finding Lincoln cents that are struck on, say, a Brazilian 1 centimos coin, or planchet rather, not so much a struck coin, but a planchet, were also some of the things that were being found during its day. There were also cross compositions between what we produced on bronze planchets for Lincoln cents, but also produced them on planchets intended for Australian coinage or Philippines coinage, things like that, because we produced a lot of those coins for those countries and continents as well. So you're going to see a few of those. And sometimes the difference between one composition to our standard normal bronze composition of Lincoln cents is so indiscernible sometimes that it's kind of hard to tell if you do have one that was struck on a foreign planchet of some sort. But just to let you guys know, those do exist. They come up so infrequently, but most importantly, it takes a lot of research, a lot of this. There's a lot of money, especially when you have to send your coin out to a lab to test out the metal, and then they send you the sheet with the composition of what's in there. And people do that when they're so inclined, but at the same time, it's a very expensive service. I believe Annex can do something like that. I believe they have that equipment, and they charge a really small fee if you're interested, but it's Annex, so that not really degrading them at all, but there are a lot more people that covet the PCGS and NGC holders because of their weight on the secondary market, which stinks. That's kind of like the monopolizing factor of the coin grading scene, where some of the smaller companies get pushed out, or there's way too much emphasis on coin grading, where it's almost like a toxic secondary market love fest for the thing, but yeah, it's again, it's a very interesting subject. Me personally, I've never found a transitional. Probably never will find an experimental, because those things were so closely guarded and kept normally within arm's length of a U.S. Mint employee. But the other one, those are being found even still to this day, in just going through coins. But yeah, pretty neat, and I have a feeling we're going to see another experimental age coming up here. I think the U.S. Mint is beginning to tolerate less the amount of money it costs to produce one Lincoln cent. That it might be time for them to actually kind of play around, spitball a little on some other alternatives, short of just saying, you know what, we're going to go the way of what Canada's doing, and we're just going to go ahead and quit producing the 1 cent coin. Yeah, that's going to be fun, right? I think the Canadian citizens and their government have adapted so much better, but I just don't see that happening here stateside, where a lot of people are still dependent on coins, even in this digital age of payment systems. I don't know, but that's why I wanted to talk about a little bit about what's out there, what's being sold, some of the more unique stuff. These are truly big time kind of trophy collections that we're seeing come across the auction blocks these days, and it's just fun to talk about. So again, all photo credits go to Heritage Auctions and Collectors Universe. But that's going to go ahead and do it for me. I'm your host, Sean, with Blue Ridge Silverhound. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Keep in mind, I have TikTok, guys. We're trying to get to 8,000 followers, and yeah, we've been going up and up and up with TikTok. For those of you that actually like the platform, it's not for everyone. It's a very young, demographically based system. So that's going to go ahead and do it. You guys take care. Have a good one. And I'll see you on the next coin video. So long.